Kelly, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Jody. I wasn't sure that was you. I was like, I
Hi.
haven't seen you up close in a while.
I mean, you don't watch my video all the time that I do for y'all.
You look different. That was like 2 years ago.
Oh, stress and age.
Oh, good, good. Okay, let me see here. Okay.
Should I close that blind or is it okay?
It's fine. It's fine. Let me see here. Okay, you can see me all right. I'm not very good at Zoom. So
I'm not either.
If we have any problems, hopefully somebody knows how to fix it. Oh, good. Well,
I can see only 7. Is it 17? Yeah, there's 17 people on.
Yeah, we'll give it a few minutes. Okay, we see there's all kinds of people on here. Let me see here. Gallery. Okay, everybody's got their cameras turned off. Except for Deborah. Hey, Deborah.
Hello.
How's everybody?
Good.
Good, good.
Hello.
Okay, so I'm in Costa Rica right now, enjoying the tropical paradise here I've been here for a month and I'm leaving in a couple of days, which I'm kind of sad about, but got to get back to work. You guys can unmute yourselves and say hi if you like. Not all at once.
Florida.
Florida. Is that RC?
That's me. My name is Rosanna. Hi.
Hi, Rosanna, and you're in Florida.
Yes, in Ormond Beach. It's near Daytona.
Oh, okay. I bet the weather's quite nice there too.
It's like paradise over here, although I've been wanting to go to Costa Rica.
Yeah, it's gorgeous here for sure. I mean, I'm looking out the window and I've got this huge mango tree right in front of me that's just laden with mangoes.
Oh, yum.
It's really
cool.
nice. Yeah, it's really nice. It's great. We'll just give it a few minutes and let a few more people get on here. Where else? Do we have anybody from out of the US?
Hi, I'm Barb. I'm from Canada. Must be nice being down there with the mangoes.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm telling you, I've been eating so much fruit. The fruit here is amazing.
Nice.
I mean, fruit that you've never even heard of in your life before, you've never even seen, you know? You go to the farmer's market and you're like, oh, that looks interesting. And you bring it back home and it's like, this is an interesting flavor, you know? It's lovely.
Isn't it mangoes that are supposed to do something with, there's a connection with mangoes increasing something with cannabis, isn't there? Am I remembering this right? Is it mangoes? Now I need to Google.
I think so. I think I read
It increases I don't know, THC. I don't know. I think I have heard that before.
As many people watching as possible. Because if both of us get on, then it's 2 more people. It keeps not working out.
Do it on your phone. I had to accept.
Oh, I
Dave-
got it.
Dave and
Mangoes,
Colleen.
mangoes are full of myrcene.
Myrcene?
They're supposed to help. They're supposed to help with the sedating effect.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, so myrcene.
Huh.
And that's what's in hops. And that's what's in our Flower Child PM tinctures. But I haven't found,
Mhm.
and myrcene is supposed to make you sleepy, but the mangoes don't seem to do that.
Well, to me, myrcene's very relaxing, but and sedating without making me sleepy. I find linalool to be really the sleepy one.
Oh, okay.
And myrcene seems to be more relaxing for muscles and just like more of a chill out. So I like the myrcene dominant anything with more myrcene in it seems to help, just calm, but not so much sleepy. I don't know. That's us though. And
Okay.
everybody's different.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, it's 5 past. I think we'll just start. We'll start, and people can join as they want. Okay, well, welcome to all of you who are in the Zoom meeting today. Thanks for joining us. This is going to be, we're going to try to do this monthly, where we have some kind of a Zoom meeting, talking to parents or people who are taking CBD, Cbg, other cannabinoids, maybe even CBN, and just find out what's working for other people. Because what I'm finding is that many people are really afraid of taking CBD or Cbg because they don't know enough about it. And there's such a stigma around marijuana that people are just afraid. They're afraid to take it. They're afraid of what it's going to do to them, if they're going to get addicted, if they're going to get stoned, and all this stuff. So we want to educate people on CBD and Cbg. And this is one of our first sessions where we're going to be interviewing a parent who is giving her child and has been giving her child CBD and Cbg for a number of years now. And we're going to find out what works for her, what didn't work for her, and what may work for you guys if you have children, or if you're on the autism spectrum. This also can go into ADHD, things like that. So without further ado, I'm Kelly McLaughlin, and I am the owner and founder of Flower Child CBD. And we have been doing this for almost 9 years now. And we've seen a lot of changes in the industry. It's been a roller coaster ride for 8-9 years, but it's all been worth it, because in the long run, we're seeing cannabis, CBD, Cbg doing miraculous things with people, having miraculous effects on people. So just a brief, and I'm sure a lot of you know this, but for people who don't know it, we'll talk a little bit about
31 people.
we'll talk a little bit about what cannabinoids are. So people are like, well, what is a cannabinoid? What is CBD? What is Cbg? What is THC? And these are all compounds that are found in the cannabis plant, right? And the cannabis plant has over 100 different compounds, all kinds of good stuff. And when we talk about cannabis, we're talking about both THC, which you would know as marijuana, and CBD, which people think is hemp. But basically, cannabis is the plant, and the plant will either come in a high THC strain or a high CBD strain, or a combination of the two. People don't realize that it's the exact same plant. It's just a different ratio of compounds. It's kind of like tomatoes, right? You've got your cherry tomatoes, you've got your heirloom tomatoes, you've got red tomatoes, you've got purple tomatoes. The same with the cannabis plant, depending on how it's grown and what strains are hybridized with other strains. You're going to get some that are high in THC and some that are high in CBD, and then the combination. If it's a high CBD strain, people call it hemp. Then it's considered hemp. If it's a high THC strain, it's considered marijuana. And so where does CBG fit into all of this? What is CBG? Where does that come from? So cannabis basically is high THC. The compound, the major compounds are THC or CBD. CBG is what happens when the plant is growing. So it's called the stem cell of the cannabis plant. So as the CBG plant is growing, as it's immature, it's forming CBG in the leaves and the stems. And as soon as the flowers start forming on that plant, that CBG is converted into THC or CBD or a combination of the two. So back in the day, it was really, really hard to find any kind of CBG products because it was really hard to, you'd have to harvest immature plants and the amount of CBG that you got from them was very, very little. Well, a few years ago, we had some wonderful guys in Oregon who hybridized the hemp plant, and they created a strain that the flowers were now pure CBG with minor cannabinoids being CBD and THC. So now we're seeing more and more CBG coming onto the market, but people are just learning about CBD now, like, what is this stuff? And then all of a sudden CBG shows up and they're like, you know what? I can't keep up with all these different cannabinoids. So the most important ones that you need to know about are THC, which is what makes you high. And that's the stigma, the reefer madness is the THC. And then CBD and now CBG. These are the major cannabinoids. You're going to hear of other ones like CBN and CBC and all these little ones, and they have their place. But right now we're going to be talking about CBD and CBG. Let me see here. Okay, so how is CBD and CBG different? Well, both of them are non-psychoactive, meaning that they're not going to make you high. You may feel a little different, but you're not going to get high like you would if you're taking THC. CBD is more of a sedative, so people tend to CBD at night. It helps them sleep. And then CBG is more stimulating for some people, and people tend to take this more in the daytime. What we're seeing with CBG as well is that it helps with energy and with focus. And when I say this now, everybody is different, right? Everybody's chemistry is different, and what works for one person or one kid is not going to work for the other. For me, for instance, I'm allergic to THC. And if I take THC on a continuous basis, whether it's to sleep at night or pain or whatever the case may be, I tend to get extremely depressed after a few days of taking THC continuously. So, and then other people don't have that problem. So you just have to experiment with yourself and with your child to see what that sweet spot is that works for them or for you. In the email that you guys got, you saw the little graph, the little survey that was done by Whole Plant Access for Autism. And that was done when CBG first kind of hit the market, and that was in 2018, and they did the survey, and they found that it was having remarkable results with these autistic kids in their verbal abilities, less anxiety, more focus, getting along with their peers at school, and just feeling more in control of their lives. So it's showing some amazing, miraculous results for some people. It's really quite incredible, actually. And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking to one of the moms that have been giving, she's been giving her child CBD and Cbg for quite a while now. And we're going to talk to her a little bit, and she's going to just give you guys an idea of how she's done it, what it's done, how long it took for her to see results in her child. And then when she's done, you're welcome to ask questions. And I think that there's a place where you can put your hand up down here somewhere. Excuse me, I'm not that proficient with Zoom right just yet, but I think you can turn up, you can somehow. Anyway, well, you can always put it in the chat. Britt is monitoring the chat. So if you have questions for Jody, you can ask them, and we'll address those questions, because I know that there's a lot of people who have questions about this. It's scary to be thinking, oh, gee, I'm giving my kid cannabis, but really it's not that scary. Okie doke. And oh, I just wanted to let you guys know that there was a survey that was done, and they found that 58% of Americans did not know the difference between CBD and THC. 58%, they thought it was the same thing. So I just want you to know that there's a huge, huge difference between the two. One makes you high and the other doesn't. Both of them have their place. THC is great for PTSD. It's great for pain control. People use it to sleep at night. The only thing with the strains that you're finding these days is that they're extremely potent. They're extremely strong, and they cause a lot of paranoia. Back in the day before cannabis was made illegal, when it was grown, it was a 1-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC. So it kind of, it smoothed over the high and the paranoia and the munchies and all of that you get with THC. But these days they have bred the plant to the point where they've got rid of all the CBD. And so the THC is so strong that it causes extreme paranoia in some people. And then you've got the munchies, which isn't good for the waist, is it? So I would suggest that if you are buying any kind of THC product from a dispensary, that you have a CBD product that you can take with it, because if you take the two together, you're not going to get the paranoia, and you're not going to get the munchies half as bad, and it kind of smooths everything out. So that's my little spiel about THC. And talking about THC too, there are people that will give their kids CBD, Cbg, and also THC. But if you're giving your kid, or you want to give your kid THC, I suggest you talk to a doctor, and you definitely get it from a dispensary, and make sure everything is legal, because you never know what could happen. So yeah, make sure that you get your stuff from a licensed dispensary if you're getting high THC. Okay, without further ado, what you've all been waiting for, we're going to introduce you to Jody Schultz. And Jody is a mom who is giving her child Cbg, and we're going to talk a little bit to Jody. And please keep your questions until later, or just put them in the chat, and we will look at those as we go, and we'll answer those questions at the very end. So Jody, why don't you just take it away, girl?
Okay. Hey guys, I'm Jody Schultz, and I started CBD for my son back in February of 2018. Our son has he's diagnosed with autism, Asperger's, high functioning. He also has Tourette's and anxiety and OCD and ADHD. And his anxiety is always what drove his behaviors and made everything much, much worse. So we were kind of at our wits' end. He had a great therapist, great psychiatrist. He was on 6 pharmaceuticals, and we were okay. But you're always looking for the brass ring, and you're always trying to find something that's better. And CBD was just kind of being talked about. And I was fortunate enough that I was directed in the right direction, that I met somebody that kind of knew dosing with these cannabinoids in autism is very different than for the general population. Most of us are told to start around 15 milligrams with our CBD. And in the autism community, it's been found via study that you want to start at a minimum of 25 milligrams. So I was lucky enough that I was directed in that way. And we started him at 25. And that very first night, I'll never forget it. My husband and I, we had dinner, and our son, his name was 14, I guess. Yeah, 14, 13. Anyway, he was way more engaged just during dinner. And then we finished dinner, and he would always book. He never wanted to hang out with us. He was like a lot of autistic kids, very into his video games. That's his source of comfort. So that night he sat on the couch with us and was really engaged and talking to us. And I remember my husband and I kept like leaning back and giving each other the side eye. And he's like, "Is it that?" I'm like, it has to be the CBD. So we kept doing it, and I followed the directions that I was given, and I raised by 5 milligrams every couple of days. We kept raising and raising, and we got to 110 milligrams, and then even giving him more didn't change the effect. And each day that we increased, I would see a little more calm, a little bit less of his defense mode from always being in anxiety, like that raw nerve. I know if any of you guys have kids with anxiety, you know what I mean, where just everything is like, what? And everything is a defense. They can't have a civilized conversation because they have these imagined things coming at them all the time. So as we raised, that decreased and decreased. Once I got to 110 milligrams, I raised it to 115. I didn't see any difference at all. So I was told that once you get to the dose and you raise it, and it doesn't make any difference at all, that's your therapeutic dose, and you stay at that. So we stayed at that for several months. And right around that time, I was lucky enough to find a great support group online on Facebook. They're called Whole Plant Access for Autism. And you can find them at their website. It's WP Plant, WPA4A.org. And on their website, you can join the Facebook page. So most of what I know is geared towards the autism community, but it's still, other than the starting doses, you still need to build up to your therapeutic dose. So we're cruising along at CBD, and I joined this group, and I'm getting more and more information, and I'm being validated that I was given the right information to begin with. And right about that time, one of the founders of the group, her daughter had speech problem issues, and she started using CBG. And because it was very, very new, just like CBD was, but they've got a pulse on what's new. These ladies are super smart, and they follow everything. And anecdotally, they were saying, "Hey, CBG, we're using it for speech." This one lady, her name's Rhonda, she runs the group. And she said, "But I'm seeing a better anxiety control." And I was like, that's our biggest issue. I'm going to try that. So our first product we lucked out, we bought Flower Child, and I'm really glad because it worked. And I did the same thing. We started low at 5 milligrams. That has a different starting that is a different minimum starting dose than CBD does. So we started at 5 milligrams, slowly worked our way up. We got to about 24 milligrams, which is 1 milliliter of Flower Child Cbg 700, which is a whole different thing. We can talk about milligrams to milliliters later if you guys need help with that. So anyway, we were at 24 milligrams, and his anxiety was being better controlled than it was with just CBD. And there was less breakthrough anxiety, and it lasted longer. With CBD, I was dosing him twice a day. So I took away the CBD cold turkey, because you can do that with cannabis. You can't do that. And there was no change. The CBG just held on to his anxiety, and it was awesome. We have been on it nonstop since June of 2018. He's done really, really well. His psychiatrist, who is dead set against any form of cannabis, became a believer. And he, you know, within the first 5 weeks of all this, he was like, I cannot believe the change in your son. We're going to start weaning pharmaceuticals. And he got behind us 100%. And we were able to wean our son off of all 6 of his pharmaceuticals. And he was on Lexapro, Guanfacine, Abilify, oh boy, you name it, Adderall. I know amantadine. I'm sure I'm missing something else. So we were able to get rid of all of them. And the longer our son was on it, the more you could see like his personality came out. It wasn't his therapist told him to name his anxiety. Because, you know, when you used to watch those cartoons, you had your angel on one shoulder and your devil on the other. His anxiety was the devil, and he named it Randy. We don't know why, but it was Randy was the one telling him, you can't do it. Why would you want to do it? They're all trying to make you look bad. That was all his anxiety. And Randy went away. It was amazing. And we got this kid we never knew. I can't say we got our kid back because we never knew this kid. And it was great. And he's going to be 18 at the end of the month. He's graduating high school. He's in a normal school. Before he wasn't. He was in a school for different learners. And after 2 years of being on cannabis, he said, I don't feel like I belong here anymore. And I want to go to a regular school. And he adapted really, really well. I mean, it's not a cure, but it's a great treatment. And if you pursue it and you're dedicated to it, because it's not super easy. It's a lot of trial and error. But if you really concentrate on it and work hard, you can achieve great results. I know Flower Child makes a great product. Don't buy your stuff at a gas station, please. You need to look at certificates of analysis, which are the labs, and they'll tell you what's in the product and they'll tell you it's clean. Flower Child does supply those. Don't buy from anybody that doesn't. And again, I know the autism side, and I can't say enough about whole plant access for autism because they handle all the cannabinoids. They have great resources and files. They have a doctor's list for getting your medical marijuana recommendation card if you are going to use THC, because you have to have your child legal to do that. And I learned so much. They actually made me a moderator, and now I am their director of education and outreach because I'm pretty passionate about spreading this to everybody. And I think that's it. Anything else I could add, Kelly? Anybody there? Hello? Well, this is strange.
Sorry. No, it's, yeah, I had muted.
Could you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I was worried that you couldn't hear me. I was like, don't make me do it again.
Okay, go
anything
ahead.
else I should add?
Yeah, we can hear you. No, that was great. And it's just amazing to me that what it's done, that you got off all of those pharmaceuticals. That is incredible, because I know I'd spoken to you a couple of years ago about it, but I really couldn't remember how many pharmaceuticals he was on. That is just incredible, really.
Yeah.
So how many
It's
was that?
amazing.
Like
And nothing. He was on 6.
six?
And nothing made a difference the way cannabinoids did. And I always refer to all the cannabinoids generally as cannabis. So when I say cannabis, I don't just mean marijuana and THC. I mean all the cannabinoids. And for us,
Yeah.
cannabis was a game changer. Just finally, it's like, and we tried everything. We did neurofeedback. We did brain treatment. We did so many things. This was it for us.
Wow.
And there's a whole science behind it, everybody. If you Google the word anatomide and cannabis, it will explain to you why this works. And CBG is actually tied to anatomide, and anatomide is the bliss molecule in our bodies. It's our own endocannabinoid that we make, and it's severely depleted in PTSD and autistic children. So you're basically, think of it like diabetes and insulin. You are supplementing a depletion in your child, just like you would give them an insulin shot. You're supplementing them back with a phytocannabinoid that comes from a plant because your body isn't making enough. That's what I love about it. There's a reason it works.
Yeah, and that comes down to the endocannabinoid system that we all have in our bodies, which they only found, I think it was in the 90s, they discovered this receptor system, excuse me, they discovered this receptor system in our bodies called the endocannabinoid system. And we actually produce our own cannabinoids. And then, as Jody said, you know, with our lifestyle, pesticides, herbicides, the foods that we're eating, stress, illness, stuff like that, our bodies aren't producing their own cannabinoids. And so that's what's causing more disease, more illness, more stress, because our body cannot create balance because we're not producing enough. And it just so happens that the compounds, the molecules in cannabis they fit perfectly into these receptor sites in our bodies. And so when we ingest it, it goes in and it floods our body with these cannabinoids, and it balances us out. And we have these receptors everywhere in our bodies. And this is why cannabis is working for absolutely everything, from migraine headaches all the way down to arthritis, autism, gut issues, eye issues, blood issues. It's just helping with absolutely everything. And that is because our whole body contains these receptors for cannabinoids.
Can you please repeat I'm sorry, Jody, can you repeat what you had just said with to Google cannabis with something specific? Yeah, can you say it one more time?
Anandamide.
And
Anandamide. I
know
put
I'm
it in
not
the chat.
Do you know how to spell it? Because I always spell it wrong. I think it's A-N-A.
Anandamide. Anandamide. Anandamide, or the endocannabinoid system. It's the same thing.
There it is.
Okay, no, that's what I was wondering. It was the same as the endocannabinoid system. Because that's helpful.
Yeah.
Well, not quite. Anandamide is just one of the endocannabinoids that we make, and it's severely depleted by stress, and they've found significant depletion on autism. They're actually trying to make it a blood marker test for early diagnosis instead of just doing the practical diagnosis for autism. They're trying to figure this out because it's so depleted, and it's PTSD, which is stress, depletes it, as does autism. And I don't know why autistic kids just don't know. Anandamide.
I
know.
Oh, sorry. I've been using Flower Child for one of my children for quite some time, the CBD, and this is a neurotypical child, but he had a reaction like where when he was excited or overwhelmed, he would have like tics, like hand flapping, and with, I mean, it's an incredible, to me, I tried everything under the sun. I went to doctors all over trying to help him. And when we first did the Flower Child CBD with that child, it completely stopped. So I'm very curious to see, if when I look this up, if this is what was so depleted in his system that everything else that I had tried, nothing worked. But when I used the Flower Child, it stopped and it's never come back, ever.
Yeah, we don't have enough research. Like, I know it's the CBD, but unfortunately, scientifically, I can't tell you exactly why, because our hands are tied with research in the US. And a lot of the studies that our group, WPA, what we rely on are studies coming out of Israel. But the CBD worked definitely, because you know it worked for your kid. That's what's, like Kelly was saying, it helps such a magnitude of things because we all have our own endocannabinoid system. It's like you're satisfying a dry plant, a thirsty plant. You're actually giving it what it needs.
You know, because I'm now starting up the CBG with my son who is on the spectrum. He's 14 because like one of the medications you had mentioned, he's on amantadine, and I can't get him off it because when I do, the anger and a lot of like, you know, where they're pushing the GABA in the brain, the amantadine, I can't get his body to produce enough of it. But I've noticed just in, you know, reintroducing CBG, I'm seeing positives. So personally, I'm thinking I'm going to try to really reduce that amantadine to be completely off it.
Make sure you're following your doctor's orders as far as weaning on any pharmaceuticals. And we have found that you need to establish your therapeutic dose with your cannabinoid first. So you get to the dose
Understood.
that you know is doing the best that it can. Then you start weaning down on the pharmaceutical, and you may need to increase the cannabinoid as you decrease the pharmaceutical, because there is a gap, and whatever it's doing can be satisfied by the cannabinoid, hopefully. And hopefully that's what we found with our kid. He didn't need those pharmaceuticals anymore, but we weaned them one at a time after we reached the therapeutic dose.
Yeah, we've been weaning it because I want to get off this. I really do. But I've been trying to figure out how I can support him. And I think CBG is so far showing positive support.
That's great.
Great. Well, thanks, Christina, for your question. We also have somebody asked, what was the starting dose of CBG? And do you give both CBD and Cbg at the same time? Jody?
His starting dose for CBG, we started at 5 milligrams. CBG is more excitatory than CBD, so it's very individualized. Again, all my data comes from whole plant because we've done a lot of studies and polls with our members. We have 30,000 members, so we try and get as much intel as we can from them. So you got to start a little lower with CBG, CBD 25 milligrams. This is for autism. And CBG 5 milligrams, G only by 1 to 2 milligrams every 3 to 4 days. Because of the excitatory nature, sometimes if you're seeing it really excite your kid after like the second or third day, if you see it kind of decreasing, give it a couple of more days. Our bodies will adjust to usually the negative effect that comes with it, because your body needs to adjust to that new feeling. And then we just kept raising the CBG by, I think we went with 2 milligrams every 3 or 4 days because it never excited our kid. And we managed to get to 24 milligrams, which just happened to be the number we stopped out because that's 1 whole milliliter of the Cbg 700 product. I was giving him CBD and Cbg at the same time. I took away the CBD and the Cbg held. Whatever the CBD was doing, the Cbg did just as well, if not better. So I didn't keep him on both. We've had, he's gone through puberty since all this started. We've had a lot of ups and downs. I've reintroduced CBD at certain times. I've gone right back to therapeutic dose. I have not, had to titrate it up because I already know his therapeutic dose is 110 milligrams. And it didn't seem to help with what I was trying to help him with. So again, we've just stayed consistent with CBG this whole time. It's been almost 4 years now. It was June 2018.
Awesome. Very nice. Okay. So the next one is can we talk about the biphasic quality of CBD and how it is often not the best choice for kids with autism and aggression? Do you know anything about that one, Jody?
Absolutely. Okay, so CBD is biphasic. All the cannabinoids are. So you got to think of a bell curve. When you're down at the bottom, you're not getting anything. When you're on the far end, it's not helping. You've got to work through to get up. So low doses of CBD, unfortunately, you have to start at 25 and work your way up. Initially, yes, it can cause an increase in behaviors because it is biphasic. It actually will do the opposite of what you want. And you can't just blitz on by and give your kid 100 milligrams because you'll saturate his receptors. So that's why we recommend you start at 25. You slowly build up. It can be hell to go through those first couple of weeks while your kid's more agitated. We didn't find the agitation because our kid doesn't have aggression, but I deal with a lot of parents who do, and their kids get more aggressive. Once you get to that top or at the therapeutic dose, and that can be 200 to 300 milligrams per dose of CBD, it'll start to work. So that's what we mean by biphasic. I don't know if I'm answering your question correctly. It's not the perfect, it doesn't work for aggression for everybody, but it can. CBD is good for anxiety, not always aggression.
Hi, Jody. This is Laura. I actually chatted that in there, that
Hi.
question there. And I've seen you on Whole Plant Access. I'm on there reading it all the time. So that's why I brought that up, because I just thought it was important to bring up, because I did notice I didn't see that your little guy had aggression, correct? That was
No.
not a target. So
No, he only, yeah, he's never, his anxiety got really, really bad the last like year. That was just too much stress in his life, and he kind of like teetered off, and he was having his own SIDS, but never aggression towards anything else. So,
and I think a lot of our kids that have, and I have a kid with aggression, and predominantly when you meet my kid, it doesn't appear, that isn't what hits you in the face, you know, his aggression, but our kids that tend towards, I just thought it's important to bring up, because I know this, everything I've learned from Whole Plant Access and reading Bonnie Goldstein stuff. So I'm right behind you.
yeah,
That we have to pick the behavior we want to target first. What is the biggest behavior? And
correct.
And if it is aggression, which often is fueled by anxiety.
Yep.
True.
I
But yet that aggression and CBD probably might not be the best match, correct?
Right. And I tend to tell parents, because you know, everybody's so afraid of THC, and you do have to have your child legal. CBD is a much easier entry point, easier to start with, and we always tell, you know, you can try with that, obviously. Sometimes you need higher doses. Like my kid only needed 110 CBD for his anxiety. Like I said, we've got kids in the group that take 200 to 300 milligrams of CBD because of the aggression.
Right. What about Cbg and aggression?
Hey, Kelly, that chart you said that you put up, was it the one with all 3 major cannabinoids and it said what each one targeted?
No, it was just CBG.
Okay. We haven't had a lot of feedback with CBG as far as aggression. I just know that it's so good for anxiety that if anxiety is the trigger for the aggression, it definitely will help that way. I hope that makes sense. Like I said, for our kid, anxiety was his trigger for everything.
Jody, have you found in the group that if THC helps with aggression?
Yes. Yes.
It does.
It's definitely, a lot of people don't have legal access to THC, and we just have to tell them, listen, you're gonna have to stick with CBD and you're gonna have to go high. If they have legal access to THC, like you said, buy at a dispensary, you've got to get your kid a medical marijuana card. THC seems to be better for aggression. You have to look at the terpene profiles. You can't go by the name indica and sativa, and you may not need as much. Again, we have aggressive kids that take 200 to 300 milligrams of THC too. If I took that much, I'd be under the table. These kids are so depleted, their bodies can handle a 300 milligram dose, and they just keep moving because it doesn't. Interesting about all these cannabinoids. It's really the degree that your body needs it. That's why you have to work up to a therapeutic dose too. You don't want to just start at 100 milligrams. You may have missed your therapeutic dose back at 60. So.
Yeah, and the body also, it kind of gets used to it. So if you start low, you know, you give the body time to adjust, you know, starting low and every few days maybe going up until you find that dose that works for you.
Yeah. Yep. And with we talked about there's a need, they call it a honeymoon period almost. Sometimes your CBD will suddenly stop being effective. And that's when we say you need a reset or a reboot or a tolerance break. You'll hear all these different phrases for it. You can either rotate brands, or you can just take a 48-hour to a 72-hour stop. This is for CBD, y'all. And the body kind of resets. And then usually you can go back at about 60% of the therapeutic dose you were at before, and it will still keep working. With THC, we tell people to rotate strains because you really don't want to take a break when you're dealing with aggression. And Cbg, I've never had to take a tolerance break with our kid. It's never stopped working for him. The way we hear CBD will stop working sometimes, which is just, again, you just need a break.
Mhm. Great, great, great.
Yeah.
So Deborah asks, can you use the Cbd and Cbg products without a medical marijuana card? And yes, Deborah, you can. You can order products off our website, which is flowerchildcbd.com. And yes, they all have THC in them, but it's 0.3%, which basically classifies it as hemp. So anything over 0.3% THC is considered marijuana, and anything below 0.3% THC is considered hemp, and it is legal to sell throughout the United States online without a medical marijuana card. Okay. Also, Laura, you wanted to know about Bonnie Goldstein's recent experience recommending higher doses of CBD. I don't know anything about that. Do you know anything about that, Jody?
Was that in relation to pandas and pans, or something?
I think that she said that in relation to just neurological activity. I remember there was a post where the person was not having, the child in question was not having seizures, but was having such a agitation, and maybe there were tics involved, and she had said that and if you just don't know, remember sufficiently to comment, I certainly understand. But she said something that this type of neurological activity is showing fast brain activity, not dissimilar to seizures. And in that case with seizures, she's giving such high doses of CBD. Do you remember this recently? Mm-hmm. And she was talking about doses starting up in the 600 milligram range. It's on the whole plant access. I can go back to that, but I just wondered if because I know you're pretty involved, if you had any other info on that.
I don't remember that. And I know as far as seizure activity, you have to be so careful because even with people that have seizure activity, we tell everybody to raise far slower than with just autism. You've got to, work out a little slower. And the high doses, I've heard her discuss that with pans and pandas. Like if your kid's having a flare, you can, it's called situational dosing. You can give them more of whatever's working. You don't have to stay at the therapeutic dose, or you can give the therapeutic dose several more times during the day. Part of the reason those high doses of CBD are working is because they have 0.3% THC in the product. So for instance, depending on the ratio, for every 20 milligrams of CBD you may be giving 1 whole milligram of THC. Well, when you're talking 600 milligrams, that's a pretty good dose of THC on board too.
Therapeutic, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I'll have to look back. It was Jody. It was because someone had recently taken their child to see Dr. Goldstein, and they were reporting back new information. Does that ring a bell?
I really thought it was pans and pandas, but I'll look.
It was. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Okay, then we have another question that says, can a US doctor perform a blood test for anandamide levels in an ASD child?
I do not believe they have perfected that test yet. I heard this discussed, I think Dr. Goldstein's the first doctor I heard even mention it, and that was 4 years ago. So I don't believe they've gotten to that point yet, unfortunately. I don't know. You could ask your physician. I'm not aware of that being a test yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
and people, there is so little research done on cannabis because big pharma can't make any money out of it. You know, so there's just very little research that's being done. And the research that is being done is being done by private parties. So we just got to kind of, you know, learn from others who have done it, from, you know, like the group Whole Plant Access for Autism. And, you know, we're out here now trying to educate people because it's necessary. More and more people are using cannabis and they're afraid and they don't know what they're doing. And and their doctors don't know anything about it. I mean, most doctors, I would say that Jody probably knows more about cannabis than most doctors out there, because she's dealing with it every day and she's using it on her kids and she's talking to other parents. The doctors don't know anything about it. And they're not getting,
No.
you know, they're not getting big pharma's, you know, big pharma pays doctors to sell drugs, right? And if you're not getting paid, why promote CBD when you can promote a pill that's going to make you some money? So, you know, it's important that you guys, it's great that you guys are on this, listening to this and learning, and because this is really the only way you're gonna get information.
Well,
Okay.
in legally, because THC is a Schedule 1 narcotic in the United States, even for some reason, the doctors are not allowed to tell you how to use any of the cannabinoids. So you're kind of flying blind. We hear parents come onto our group all the time and say, well, the doctor told me to start with 1 drop. Well, 1 drop of CBD probably isn't going to do a thing to your kid. And if you raise it, put them right into the agitation zone. That's why we tell everybody to start with 25 milligrams for autism, start with 15 for neurotypical. Doctors, their hands are tied. And like you said, they want to make money off of pharmaceuticals, and there's not a lot of education out there. There are certain cultivators that are trying to educate more people on it, like you guys, and trying to get the word out there. So yeah, in the United States, we don't have a lot of intel.
Yeah. Are there any age restrictions to use CBD or CBG for autistic kids?
We have not seen any. We've got parents, you know, a lot of times you don't know your kid's autistic for a while because it just takes a while to diagnose them, but we've got parents using it on 1-year-olds. So you don't start at 25 milligrams. There's 5 and under, you start at 15 milligrams, between 5 and like 4 to between 4 and 7, you start around 20 milligrams. And then from 7 years old and up, we say start at 25 milligrams.
Okay, good.
Yeah, again, it's too bad because I know this is all from my group, but there's nowhere where you can just look this up. And you've got these crappy MLM companies, and now the essential oil companies are into selling CBD, and they're just like willy-nilly, and they're not giving the right information out. That's why we're so passionate about teaching people how to use it right, because it's so beneficial if you're doing it right.
Yeah. And also, you know, not all CBD is created equal. There's different extraction methods that they use. There is a CBD on the market called Sativex, which is a pharmaceutical, but it's made out of an isolate. And so what an isolate is where they take the basically the cannabis extract. So they extract all of the cannabinoids from the plant, and in that extract you may have THC, CBD, Cbg, Cbn, Cbc, all these different compounds, right? All the good stuff is in there. And then an isolate is where they throw all of everything away and they just keep the CBD. And it just doesn't work as well because you need all of the other
Not nearly as
compounds
effective.
to work together synergistically to create that healing effect. I spoke to some guy who was on Sativex for his kid for epilepsy, and he said he was taking our product and then he went on to the Sativex because the insurance was paying for it. And he said that the kid was, he was having to give her 3 times as much of the isolate, the Sativex, versus the flower child CBD. So it just is not, it's not all created equal. And then there's a broad spectrum, which means that they keep some of the cannabinoids and they throw out the THC. So there's no THC in there. And that too doesn't work as well. So, you know, you really need to, if you're thinking about CBD, talk to somebody who's taking it, who's done it before, go to these groups, find out what other parents are doing and what works for them before you go out and buy CBD, because it's all different. It's all different. You know, some people use very harsh chemicals, butane and propane and all these things to extract the cannabinoids. We use alcohol, food grade alcohol, to pull out those cannabinoids, and then we cook off the alcohol and just are left with the extract that has everything in it still. It's a full spectrum. It's got the chlorophyll in it. It's got all of the essential oils still in it. It's got all of the cannabinoids that came from that plant still in it. And we take that extract, put it into grapeseed oil, and that is it. There's nothing else in there. A few drops of peppermint for those who don't like the taste of cannabis, but there's only really 3 things in our product. So very clean, very clean. Oh, and
Excuse me,
yes,
when you have a moment, I have a follow-up to that legality question
sure. Go
that you
for it.
answered.
Yeah.
I understand the legalities of selling the product. I think what I was more interested in is the legalities of administering it to a child, my grandchild in this case, with that small amount of THC in it. Is that something that a medical marijuana card is needed for, given that it does have that very small amount
No,
of THC?
no, you don't need a card for that because it's considered hemp.
Okay, because the last thing anybody wants is to have a run-in with CPS or something over.
Yeah, no, you don't, you
Yeah.
you know, and the fact that we can sell it online to all of the, you know, all of the states in America. We can't sell it outside of America, unfortunately. But yeah, it's completely legal. And,
Okay.
you know, and I say to parents too that are afraid to give it to their kids, it's like, you take it first. Take, you know, the same amount that you'd give your kid, take some of it, take a dropper full and see what it does, see how you feel. Because people are like, well, if my kid gets high? Well, you take it first and see how you feel, and then you'll more or less know how the kid's gonna feel. And with CBD, I can tell you now, if you're taking CBD, you're gonna feel a little sleepy. And even CBG can make you feel a little sleepy. Some people say that it's more stimulating and they feel that like they've had a cup of coffee. One thing that I noticed with the CBG, I was taking the blend at night to help me sleep, which is a blend of CBD and Cbg. It's a 50-50 blend. And I would wake up in the morning and I would have so much energy and so much focus. It was just, it was wonderful. So, you know, that's why I say, just try it out on yourself first, and then you'll know, you know, what it's doing to your child, more or less, you know, if there's any kind of psychotropic feeling, psychoactive feeling.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so the next question was, can somebody explain the different products, the Cbg 350, 700, and 1400? So I'll answer that question. So the higher the amount, the stronger the CBD. But really what it is like, the 350 has got 350 milligrams of CBD in the bottle. The 700 is double that strength. And the 1400 is double the 700 strength. So it's just giving you more CBD in the bottle and saving you a few bucks if you buy the 1400, and you can take less of it. So if you were taking a full dropper of the 350, which I think is around about 12 milligrams of CBD in one dropper full of the 350. If you bought the 1400, you would only have to take a quarter of a dropper full to get the same amount of CBD. Okay, Christina, did that make sense to you? Okay, so Christina, maybe she's not there.
Yeah, sorry. No, I'm on mute. Sorry. Yes, no. And Brett actually did respond. I was specifically asking more about the CBG, and I have follow-up questions about it.
Uh-huh.
And you'll see them later. I don't want to cut in front of anyone's question, but that was helpful. Thanks.
Okay, good. So Nicole asks, she said, I got my son up to the 24 milligrams on CBG, but we took a month off. Do I have to slowly build back up again? Jody?
Did you feel that the 24 milligram dose was working? Or do you think he could have used more?
Nicole? Nicole, are you there? Nicole Brown? Nope, she's not there.
Well, it's kind of like with a reboot, like we say, if once you've gone off it for a little while, you sometimes will find you can lower your dose by 60%. You might as well try that. And if it's not working, just be prepared to go right back up. So if her kid was on, I'd start back out around 15 and see if that's working, but it may not. And you may see an initial reaction like it's not working at all. Then just give more. You don't have to wait. You just don't want to. I wouldn't jump in all in after taking a month off. I wouldn't go right back to 24 milligrams.
Okay, great. And then Laura, I answered your question.
You did, thank you.
Okay, and then Deborah, did Jody answer your question about aggression and CBG?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, sweet.
Thank you.
And then RC asked,
Deborah,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Deborah, are you a member of the group, the whole plant group?
No. My daughter is though.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. And this is your grandchild you're speaking about, right?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, if she asks questions, she'll get help as far as aggression goes.
Yeah.
Legal
Okay.
access depends. What state are you guys in?
Oregon?
Oh, you can easily get a medical marijuana recommendation card and use THC. Oregon's very user-friendly. And in our group, there is a file of cannabis doctors, and we have doctors in Oregon that will help.
Thank you.
Sure.
Um,
Nicole Brown said, I don't know what happened to my microphone, but I can't read this. But thank you for answering my question. Cool. You're welcome.
oh, okay. And then there's, what feedback have you received regarding speech initiation in nonverbal children with CBG?
We've had good positive feedback. Some parent, I mean, it's not like you give your kid a drop and all of a sudden they're speaking and, it doesn't work that way. It takes a while. One of our other moderators' daughter had very limited speech, and she's been doing this for 4 years now as well. And Chloe's talking more and she's processing words better. She may not be able to verbalize as well, but she's certainly understanding things better as they're coming to her, and she can use her speech to talk devices a lot better. So it's helping with speech. That's probably, besides anxiety, those two things are the big things we see improvements with CBG with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually had a woman message me on Facebook, and she said that her son is 20 years old. He's high on the autism spectrum, and that after taking CBG within just a few days, he said his first word in 5 years other than bye-bye. And I mean,
Awesome.
We get these testimonials all the time, and it's like you just want to start crying, because it's like wow,
Yeah.
you know what? Here's something natural that's helping these kids, that's helping people feel better and feel more in control of their lives. And it's been ostracized and made illegal for all these years. You know, think
Yeah.
about that one. Makes me really
I
upset.
know.
Don't get me started.
And I think my own theory is like some of you guys are probably where the bugs are out in a way inside them. We don't know what they're processing and what they're thinking, but for my kid, it's like he was in a foxhole all the time and he always thought he was under attack. So there's no way he was going to remember to brush his teeth. He just wasn't going to be able to do anything because he always felt he was being attacked. So with that, if you're taking down that anxiety and all those, your brain on fire, well, then maybe you can stop and look around and maybe start to be able to talk or start to like enjoy things. We've had parents say, all of a sudden my kid's interested in playing again, or not again, my kid is playing. It's because they're not full of all that rage and not firing in their heads. It's so hard to verbalize what it is, but I know our kids, and we've all seen our kids. You don't know what's going on, and it's like all of a sudden this calmness comes over them and they're able to communicate with the world without defending against it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, I think we spoke about the legal access and the use of CBD and Cbg in kiddos. You don't need a medical marijuana card if using just CBD and Cbg. You can order it online. You would need it if you're trying to get THC. If you're Helen says that she's in Connecticut and autism is not recognized as a medical MJ card allowable for children. For that, I would maybe, get some for yourself and then speak to somebody who's using, somebody like Jody, who knows how to use THC with her kid, and talk to somebody who's already done it. That's really the only way you're going to be able to get THC if your doctor won't recommend it for your kid. You're going to have to get it for yourself.
If you join our group, we have a Connecticut doctor. I believe in Connecticut, you need 2 doctors to sign off. It can be done. A lot of times if the qualifying condition doesn't say straight out autism, you can get it under PTSD. And that's one of the nice things in our group. We've got the other parents that have succeeded in other states that have given us the names of these doctors and who to use. So I know we have parents in Connecticut that have gotten medical marijuana recommendation cards.
Okay, great. Let's see, anything else? So Barbara wants to know why people remove the terpenes from the products. Barbara, a lot of products are made with distillate, and the distillate, that's what that does. It removes terpenes, and they do that so it does not taste like cannabis. So a lot of edibles, gummies, caramels, whatever, are made with distillate where the terpenes have been removed so that it doesn't taste bad.
Yep. It's one of the reasons we tell people don't use gummies. Do you guys have full spectrum gummies, Kelly?
No, we have caramels.
Okay.
And they're
Great.
full spectrum caramels. They're delicious.
They are delicious.
Right now what we're doing, if you order, you get a free caramel to try, or a couple of free caramels to try, because we have the CBN ones for sleep, and it's amazing how those knock you out. They're great. We don't make them, we order them, but the people are from Oregon who make it, the guys, and they do a great job.
Thank you for answering that. I'm in Canada, and then I've noticed that they're coming out with a lot of new CBD products, CBD 50 oil, but they're calling it clear, and they're removing the terpenes. I find the terpenes are being removed in so many products, and we can't even find the terpene list on a bag of herb.
Wow. Yeah. No, so many different things happening, you know, I've seen all these different CBD products coming out and this and that, and it's just like, it's kind of like they Frankensteining it, you know, they're taking this out and putting this in. I've even seen companies that are, you know, when you check out, you can actually add terpenes to your product. And I don't know about that. You know, to me, that's, why not just stick with the original plant instead of pulling things out and adding things, you know?
Yeah, I don't understand it because it's all medical LP, so it's all, you know, it all goes through Health Canada, right? So it's crazy.
Yeah.
But Barbara, I believe you, Flower Child, you guys deliver to Canada, Kelly?
You know, we were delivering to Canada for a while, and then things started getting confiscated at the border. So we just can't do that anymore, unfortunately.
Okay. The dispensary CBD is very, very overpriced, and you're better off if you can find it from one of the reputable brands online. I know we have a lot of Canadian members in our group, and they're buying online good CBD, and you want to look at those certificates of analysis because they're going to tell you the extraction methods. Distillates are the ones that don't have terpenes in them, and it can be done. We've got many Canadian members, Barbara.
Yeah, I'm on the website actually. Yeah, and you're right.
Okay, good.
The medical LPs, it is overpriced for sure. So I just bought me an Ardent and Magic Butter machine. So we're gonna try to do a few things here. So.
Yeah, are you guys allowed to? Do you guys have flower available to buy? THC, you know, marijuana flower?
Well, yeah, we have cannabis stores that we can go and buy. It's all run by the government, of course.
There you go.
But yeah, we can go and buy it. But again, a lot of them, they don't list the products, what the terpenes are, and some of them that do, they just tell you what's listed, but not percentages. So they might say Italian mycene, yet it's 0.001.
Right.
Right. So
the only
you don't
product
know.
that I can remember off the top of my head in Canada is a tincture called Banook, Banook. I don't even know who sells it, but I know that's one of the only pre-made THC tinctures up there that seems to be targeting the right behaviors for autism. And it's probably myrcene dominant. I honestly don't know if they have levels. I just remember that one working for some of our Canadian members. But most people buy the flower, you demand the terpene profiles. We're trying to make that a thing across the world. Maybe someday we'll all get terpene profiles on our THC products, and we'll be able to shop more educated.
Yeah. Hopefully one day. There's a Lift and Co. Cannabis exhibition coming up this weekend in Toronto. So I'm going to go again and hopefully see if there's some more information flying around there.
Good.
And just keep plugging away.
Yeah.
Okay, great, Barbara. Thank you. Laura said her son is overweight. What are your thoughts on CBG and weight gain, if any? I know for a fact that CBG kind of gives you the
Pardon me?
Laura said her son is overweight. Your thoughts on CBG and weight gain? I know that CBG gives you the munchies just a little bit. It does increase the appetite, whereas CBD does not. It's not as bad as THC, but you do have some appetite increase. What do you think, Jody?
I have not heard that feedback from any cannabinoid except THC, that it's the one that can give you the munchies. I haven't heard that with CBG.
Yeah.
So,
what I found is it doesn't necessarily give you the munchies. It just makes you feel a little bit hungry. And that's, and I've heard that, and I've experienced that too, because I know that with cancer patients, they're saying that CBG is good for cancer patients because it does stimulate the appetite.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall. I mean, so much more information. Like I said, it's anecdotal, and I don't recall hearing that, because usually people will complain, because usually with autism the kids are overweight rather than underweight. So usually we'll hear complaints because it is giving their kid the munchies, and I haven't heard that much.
Okay.
I've never heard that at all with CBG.
Yeah. And Helen, you want to know,
Yeah,
she's
at night.
at night.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it at night.
CBD, always start any of these cannabinoids if you're starting, unless you're using specifically for sleep. CBD can be excitatory. Helen, if your child's got autism especially, it can be excitatory for them. So you don't want to give it at night. It may keep them up all night. It's about 50-50 as a sleep aid in the autism community. In the general population, people say it's great for sleep. Again, we don't know why in autism it's different. We just know the reports we get from families. So you don't want to start at night. You want to start during the day, preferably on a weekend when you've got eyes on your kids, so you can see how they react. And if they, right out of the gate, 25 milligrams makes them extremely agitated, you can give them another 10, 15 milligrams immediately to try and get them through that. Because it's definitely not, it's way too low if they're super agitated right out of the gate. It's a lot of trial and error, everybody, and you've got to play that with them carefully to get to where you need to be. I mean, it's like any medicine. You've got to try and target your dose.
Have you tried CBN, Jody, at all for sleep? CBN?
Yeah. Yes. When we first started all these cannabinoids, our son was also on trazodone. His anxiety gave him nightmares, and he would scream in his sleep. And then from about 5 to 6 a.m. every morning, he would have these full-on conversations dead asleep. Wow. So he was on trazodone, which was really working well for that. So I wanted to get him off that, and we got CBN, and I introduced that, and I started weaning him off the trazodone, and the CBN really helped him stay asleep. And then I took away the CBN, and he was fine. Myself personally, I still need CBN at night to sleep better. We have found in the autism community, we don't know why, some kids it stops being effective. So usually you can use it as a reset. A lot of these not being able to sleep, some of it's just learned behaviors by getting up and coming out of the room all the time. You can try and stop the bad behavior. You can use CBN as long as you can. If you see it stop working, you can take a break, a tolerance break, and see if reintroducing it will work. But that's our feedback on CBN. It is a good sleep aid.
Yeah, it is. And if people are like, oh no, here we go again, another cannabinoid, I have no idea what that is. So
yeah.
CBN is what happens to THC flower, like the bud, when it gets old. When it breaks down and it gets old, it turns into CBN. And CBN is a sedative. It'll knock you out and you won't know anything till morning. It's great. And as I said, we do have caramels that we sell that are CBN caramels, and you start with half of one of those and you're out. It's great. So if you have any problems sleeping, that's what I'm pushing right now. It works great. Okay.
It's great for sleep.
Yeah. Okay, somebody said they joined late. She's looking into CBD for a 6-year-old, nonverbal, high anxiety. What product would I begin with? Thank you. Cbg gave her too much energy. She's also has PANS.
So I would say start with Flower Child CBD. They're 1,400, or do you guys also have a 700?
We have a 700
on your CBD count. Okay, so you guys, the math, I know it's crazy, and this is a big issue for a lot of people. That number on the bottom, that 700, You divide that, that's the total amount of milligrams of that cannabinoid. So CBD 700 has 700 milligrams of CBD in that bottle. You divide the bottle by the volume. So usually the bottles are 30 milliliters. You divide 700 by 30 milliliters, you end up with 24 milligrams per milliliter.
Per
So with CBD, pardon?
Per dropper, yeah, per dropper.
Per dropper, per 1.1 ml is a dropper. To be super accurate, we recommend that you get a 1 milliliter dosing syringe. You can get it from your pharmacist and you can draw it up and you can do 0.1 milliliter, 0.2 milliliter. And that way you can pinpoint a little bit more and you can raise it. I would start with the CBD. I'd start at 25 milligrams and raise it by 5 milligrams every 4 days. If it's during a PANS flare, be prepared to give a lot more. But if you're working on the therapeutic dose, you're going to start at 25 and keep raising until you see control of some of those behaviors.
Great. Okay. Okay, and then Kendra just commented and she said she was told that her son would not speak or use the restroom himself. And then she said, thank you for Flower Child, CBD and Cbg. He's speaking, potty trained, and not as aggressive, less triggered. So that was from Kendra.
Awesome.
Thank you, Kendra.
That's exactly how it works when it's working, for sure. It's amazing.
Yeah, and George, we are recording this, and so what we'll do is we'll send this out in the next few days to everybody who was on the call so that you can share this with whoever you need to share it with. Okay. And Kylie made a comment. So Kylie said, unfortunately, even in the States, it can be very difficult to find a dispensary or company that provides terpene profiles for THC flower due to the extra costs involved in testing and the lack of consumers requesting such information. I found that the states along the West Coast were much more familiar with terpene testing compared to states such as Colorado. And that's true. And Kylie is my daughter and she used to work for me, so she knows all about it.
That's a big thing. And we have had, we preach terpenes all day long in our group because it really is the correct way to use medical marijuana. You've got to know the terpenes. And we've had members that are now lobbying their legislators. They are writing to their cannabis board of their state and they're demanding terpenes because you're giving somebody a license to use a medicine and you're not giving them the tools to use it correctly. So little by little, we're making a difference. In California, a lot of products have QR codes on them now and you can scan it and there should be terpene profiles available. I have an entire link post with about different terpene resources that you can search strains and get an idea of the dominant terpene. If you really can't get an actual terpene profile for that grow, it's very grow specific. What's grown on the West Coast will not necessarily have the same terpene values as on the East Coast. It depends on a lot. It's a plant, so it's always going to vary. You can get an idea of the dominant terpene. I myself bought Granddaddy Purple in California about a month ago, and I was so excited because that's like the hallmark for autism. It's one of the best THC strains out there. I got it home and it had less than 0.1% of all the values, which isn't enough to make an effect. I was so disappointed. So yeah, if you're not getting terpene profiles, your hands are tied and you just got to try it. And then you try it and you still don't know why it worked because you don't know what was in it. You just know it worked. If that makes it, there's a lot to it.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I had a question about dosing. I think the question got skipped.
And
I just wanted to
states
know.
have it mandated. Yeah.
Yeah, Christina.
I just wanted to get a little more clarification on Cbg specifically. I know you had mentioned, Jody, you started your son at 5 milligrams, but is there like a range that the group has scene,
Yes.
like kind of where starting and then kind of where they're maxing out on?
We do have an average daily dose poll, and I can look that up while we're talking. And I think most people are topping out between 10 and 20. Cbg, it's so different because like some kids just can't handle it. It's too excitatory. Some of the autistic kids. So there's more of a range with that one. I know the average daily dose in CBD is around 100, but I will see if I can find that post right now while we're talking, and maybe I'll be able to give you a better idea.
Well, like you had mentioned with your own son, you started at 5 and then where did you end up deciding you were finishing at or staying at?
We ended up at 24 milligrams, and the only reason it's 24 and not 25 is because that's just what 1 ml of the Flower Child product equals, is 24 milligrams. If I was using their Cbg 1400, it's double the potency, and I would only be using 0.5 milliliters, but it would still be a 24 milligram dose. I hope that made sense. So our dose is 24 milligrams.
Makes sense. And then you mentioned you do not need to do it twice a day with CBD.
So the rule of thumb on that one is when you're determining the therapeutic dose, you're going to start once a day, and that's it until you figure out the therapeutic dose. Once you've got that figured out, then you track how long it lasts. For us, he only needs 1 dose a day. For some kids, they may need a couple of doses a day, but then you kind of run into the obstacle. Well, is that going to make my kid too alert and make trouble sleeping? You just kind of have to feel it out because it may work for your kid and it may not.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And it has nothing to do by weight. Really, what it comes down to is how depleted their system is. And you can't tell until you start giving it to them through trial and error and you work up to that dose that's going to work.
Good. And then RC, you mentioned you had a question. Do you dose daily or every 3 to 4 days? You dose daily. So yeah, you want to give it to them every day.
You want to stay ahead of the behaviors. Using this to treat a behavior is a lot harder than keeping a consistent amount in their body and staying ahead of the behaviors.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies it. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Ladies, I need to go, but I just want to say thank you, Jody, for everything, and Kelly. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And hopefully I see you guys again soon.
Definitely. Hopefully next month. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.
Bye, guys.
One question about speech. I know you've talked extensively that there really isn't a lot of research, and we all know a lot of the reasons why, but do we know why Cbg seems to really help with speech, or is it really more that's a lot of the feedback, since you have such a large group, that you're hearing from parents?
You know,
I do not. Go ahead, Kelly.
No, I was just going to say that nobody knows how it's helping. It really, you know, because no research has been done. So it's just like one of those things that was like, oh, wow, look, this works. That's cool. You know,
Well, do we know if it's crossing the blood-brain barrier, which it must be crossing the blood-brain barrier? I mean, it must be fulfilling something within the temporal lobe. I mean, I'm just asking if you had received any feedback such as that.
Jody?
I don't know the scientific reason why it works. Unfortunately, again, hands are tied because we don't have enough research, but we know it's helping. And my own theory is it's reducing so much anxiety. But I think as far as speech, there's got to be something more going on, because we're taking kids that have never been able to speak that are suddenly able to speak. And I really don't know what it is. And that's not, it's not like, I hate it when people think, well, my kid's not talking. Why aren't they talking? Well, it doesn't work that way for everybody, but we have had a lot of positive feedback on it. So am I answering your question correctly?
Yeah, no, I'm just curious. I mean, my son has been at this game since he's 17 months old. He's 14 years old. He has come a tremendous way. Speech is always, he's can totally speak. He's got great receptive language. But we're not, I mean, he has a twin brother. So we're not fully recovered in that arena. The speech has just always been our hardest, and we've tried everything under the sun, from transcranial magnetic stimulation to HBOT to you name it, we've done it. But that I'm just curious because it's, we've been doing CBG for a while, and I am seeing a more increase in speech, and I do see a decrease in anxiety. So I just was kind of hoping maybe you knew a little more of the why, but that's okay. I mean, we're all parents in this, like, learning as much as we can, which I understand.
Exactly. Have you tried just Googling it? Because there may be studies going on it as to why. They're probably out of Israel, but you could probably, if it's a study being done, you'll probably be able to find it just through Google.
Right. A lot of times where I find the most information is if I actually Google something that doesn't talk about autism, because that's the least research. They don't want to put any money towards it. But if you put in aphasia, you put in seizures, you put in temporal lobe, you put in where they're really focusing on the brain, it gives more information. That's at least my experience with researching, because ASD, they don't put a lot of weight into it,
And that's the doctors in Israel are the ones that are doing the autism studies. So that's where we get most of our data. Whoever was asking me about the average daily dose on CBG, according to our group poll, it's 10 milligrams to 15 milligrams. That's
10 to 15. That was me. That's Christina. I was asking that. So thank you.
Cool. Are you in the group?
I'm not a social media person. So I don't do Facebook. I don't do any of it. So I'm not. But
we have a bunch of scientific articles on the website, which is free, WPA4A.org. And there might be some scientific articles there that link back to CBG and speech.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Guys, we're going to take one more question because we've already been going for an hour and a half, believe it or not. And this one is from Barb. And she says that her son is 31 and suddenly has pharma-induced tardive dyskinesia symptoms.
Oh,
and
tardive dyskinesia.
There you go.
It's targeted dyskinesia, TD.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Barb, what state are you in?
I'm in Illinois.
Okay. Was it from weaning, or is he still on the pharmaceutical?
He was at 40 milligrams and he started having these episodes of really playing with his hands, rolling his eyes in his head, and just, it was like, I thought he was having a seizure or something, and it just kept lasting and lasting. So I talked to the pharmacist and he said fluoxetine can cause that kind of TD taken for a long time or a short time, which is the generic Prozac. So we started weaning him down. We got him down to 10 right now, but I didn't know if maybe I should start the CBG while still doing that. His behaviors are getting less, but I can't cut him totally out because we're going on vacation and I don't know how he's going to do on a plane.
Right.
So, and I can't take the CBG because it's a cruise, but I thought when we get back, should I do them at the same time?
Where's the cruise going to?
Aruba, Curacao, and Grand Cayman.
Barbara, you can take the CBG with you. If you can pull the label off if you're scared that they might confiscate it, but it's legal to take it with you.
As long as I don't take it into port, I should be fine.
You can take it. If you pull the label off, nobody's going to know what it is, for one thing, and that way you've got it. Okay,
because Royal Caribbean's website said that you can't take CBD or anything like that because of laws in different countries. But if you don't take it off the ship, how would they even know?
Exactly. Yeah. And they say that because that's what they have to say. But I travel all over with my CBD. I have to have it. So you know, if you're that concerned, just pull the label off.
All right, I'll just say it's my vitamin
And-
C serum for my face.
And you know what? They're not going to go and say, oh, well, this could be this. Are we going to go send it in for potency testing at our labs? You know, they're not going to do that. It's one little tiny bottle of whatever, you know. Yeah, and if it's in your checked luggage, you know, nobody's gonna even notice. I promise. It's yeah.
Okay, because we leave in a couple days, so
And
I'm
I
like,
wouldn't, Barb,
yeah.
I wouldn't, is he already on CBD or are you gonna try it?
I was gonna try him on the Cbg because he does have the anxiety.
Yep. The problem with the only issue with CBG is it is excitatory and that may actually make the tics worse.
Oh.
I would give it a try, but if I were you, I would start with CBD.
Okay.
It's not as excitatory and you may get better control. And if that doesn't work, you're going to need THC for motion tics. Illinois has a program. I think you guys even have a recreational program, don't you?
Yeah, I really don't know much about it. I'm just kind of getting
If he's
into it.
30, if he's over the age of 21, it's a recreational state, he's got access and so do you. So
Would that do anything with my guardianship and all that? Because like he gets state funding and they want to know everything you do. They want to know medicine.
there are, yeah, as long as they're a legal patient, that should not interfere, because we have a lot of parents from California in our group that get IHSS money, which is a California thing, and their kids all have cards, and I've never seen that being a problem.
Okay. Because I was going to call his
I'm trying-
service provider and ask him, because I, don't want like the state be like, oh, you're giving him such and such, you're going to lose custody.
Okay. Yeah, I would, boy, you're gonna have to, I would say join our group and talk to other parents in Illinois, number one, because we have a lot of Illinois parents. It is a recreational state, so if he's over the age of 21, he is allowed to use it legally in Illinois. So I guess then you're looking at the other side of it. Does that affect guardianship? I
Right.
don't see how it could if it's legal recreationally. That's kind of, he can do whatever he wants. He can smoke
Right.
cigarettes, he can drink alcohol, he can do what, he's over 21.
Yeah, but they
So,
might say he's not mentally right to make the decision. I don't know.
so you
I
would
just,
have to probably, you can get some medical in a dispensary that sells recreational and medical's a little less because the taxes are less.
Right.
You can get a medical marijuana recommendation card, which does make him legal. You get the caregiver's card so that you
Right.
can actually shop for him, but it's legal for him. And like I said, I know we've got parents in California doing this, and I bet we have some in Illinois doing it too. If you,
Okay. I am in the Facebook group.
oh, good.
So, okay, I'll check into that more.
I would contact one of the doctors. If you go to the files tab in the Facebook group on the homepage, we have a cannabis doctor's file. I would contact a doctor in Illinois and ask them if they know the answer to that specific question before asking your guardianship people, because they might not know the actual answer and they may just say no because they don't want to deal with it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Cool.
Great.
You're welcome.
Okay, and one more. We have Nicole wants to know, how do you know if you're giving them too much CBG? She said, would it make something like
hopefully you're not giving them too much.
worse?
Would it make what?
Hand flapping worse? Hand flapping?
So because it's biphasic, as you're starting, you may see an increase in behaviors. When you get to the point where the behaviors are being controlled, you stop. So if you keep going up, you may go to the other side of the bell curve, and now you're giving too much because the behaviors have returned again. There is a happy point. They also call it the sweet spot. That's your therapeutic dose. You just have to work up to it. And if you keep raising and raising and raising and you're not finding it, then you need to try a different cannabinoid. But we've got people using, God, we have one woman in our group using 100 milligrams of CBG. Her kid can tolerate it, even though it's so excitatory. Her kid must need that much.
Great. Okay, Jody, well, thanks so much. And to everybody
Sure, you're welcome.
that showed up, thank you all for being here. This was great for our first interview on CBG. And we're going to be doing another one next month or sooner. We're also going to be talking about CBG and how we're going to be interviewing another mom who is using it. And so we can get a different perspective. But thank you everybody for being here, and we will send you a recording in a couple of days. And you guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks so much. Jody, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Yeah, it was great. Thanks.
Yeah, good. And I will talk to you in a couple of days or so. Okay.
Okay.
Great, guys. Thanks so much. Bye now. See ya.
Bye-bye.